I taught my bird to whistle like a referee. I can make a free throw when I'm down on one knee. I've been a fan of basketball since I was 5. Now I am a fan of HoopSpeak Live. Hilarious analysis, a mystifying trope. An angel with a cudgel breaking bubbles of soap. Like honeybees buzzing around a hive. Yeah, everybody buzzing about HoopSpeak Live.
I apologize in advance. No Beckley, but we still have a lot of basketball to talk about. And we have Tom Haberstroh, who I suppose you could say that he's slumming it on SportsCenter before coming to here, which is the main event afterwards. But he will be on later to talk all things Miami Heat and high trade value. But I want to lead off with a little trade rumor going on. A little Josh Smith action. Zach, I know you have some Josh Smith opinions. I want your thoughts.
Well, I don't like the idea of him in Atlanta anymore. I will say that. I think it's poison water. He's killing himself day in and day out. He doesn't belong there anymore. Mm-hmm. I think if he went to a coach like, let's say, Rick Carlisle. I know there's the rumor of him going to Dallas or going to San Antonio with Popovich. I don't really believe that. But let's say he wound up in Dallas next year and played under Rick Carlisle. I think Carlisle could iron out the crap in his game. And there's a lot of crap in his game. There's a lot of good. He's still an incredible defender. He's good in the post. He's good around the basket. But that guy loves to destroy his own offensive ability, which is bad shots, bad decisions, and he holds the ball too much. That's the thing. He's a good passer, but he holds the ball all the time. I just think he submarines his own product.
I think that ironing crap out literally would be a gross experience. I don't believe that would work out as well as it would metaphorically. My hope in this instance, and why I like it for San Antonio, who knows what they give up. So I'm just saying I like it in the abstract, is that they seem to be able to fix shots. Kawhi Leonard, for instance, had a not so good shot at San Diego State. They saw something in him, and they ironed out the crap in his shot. Chip England, the shooting coach there. So perhaps it's just impossible with Josh Smith, but maybe not. An interesting Josh Smith stat over the last 10 games, his three-point percentage is better than his free throw percentage at 44%. So make of that what you will. I like it if they can get Josh Smith shooting better.
Here's another stat. In his last 2 seasons, true shooting percentage under 50%. That's alarming.
This is true.
That's really scary. With the shooting coach thing, I mean, not to discount what the Spurs are doing, but I believe Mark Price is or was the shooting coach in Atlanta. I feel like Mark Price would be a pretty good guy to learn from.
He might be. Sometimes people who are good at things aren't necessarily the best at conveying how to be that to others. That's a fair supposition. I do want to think about the Spurs in general, and also the Nuggets, because that's another team that you have thoughts on. Zach Lowe had a piece on the Nuggets, and I sense that those two teams, even though the Spurs are better than the Nuggets, they exist in a similar plane right now where we don't trust their regular season production. We don't think of them as being able to exceed what they do in the regular season. So I'd like your thoughts on both those teams and whether or not either is a true title contender.
Well, actually, interesting enough, a little promotion here. Talked about this with Matt Moore on the Ion Basketball Pick and Troll podcast this morning, which you can download on iTunes and subscribe and leave a review for if you were so inclined. I do think the Spurs are a contender. I think they can legitimately win a title this year, and I don't put that out there with a lot of teams. I only think there are 4 teams currently that can win a title, and that's it. With the Spurs, the question is, can they stop that play from the Thunder that just destroyed them last year? Were they playing over their head, or were they playing under their ability, or was it somewhere in the middle? You know, we don't really know that yet. If they can figure out a way to stop that pin down for Kevin Durant, or at least slow it to where it's not working every other possession, then I like their system. I like the fact that you can't play fast against them. They're winning like 89% of their games against teams in top 10 pace. I mean, they just destroy you if you try to run with them, and their shooting is so good. I believe in the system. With the Nuggets, I'm not buying it. I think they're a great regular season team. I think maybe they can get to the Western Conference Finals if the road clears up for them a little bit, but I love me some stars. I love me some guys that can get out there and be in the spotlight and point the spotlight on themselves. The Nuggets just don't have that.
Well, it would almost seem as though the Nugget system, and I haven't read the low piece, so perhaps I'll learn otherwise, is the dearth of a system. It's almost a frenetic chaos at high altitude that seems to carry them and befuddle defenses. The Spurs obviously do have a system, and maybe I'm just a negative person, but in seeing them beat the Chicago Bulls last night without any of their stars, I almost wondered if it was an indictment at some level, that it showed them to be a systemic team, and a system can be broken over the course of a playoff series. So I do wonder if they are something of a paper tiger, and it's because of their system.
A paper tiger. We're ironing out crap
Paper
and making
tiger.
paper tigers. I like this. Uh, that's the thing, is that I think that they're so good in their system, you can adjust to it, but the system is based off ball movement and based off of kind of reading where the defense is and swinging the ball around. And I think those type of systems can adjust in the playoffs in theory. Now, they didn't adjust after Game 2 last year and in the Western Conference Finals, and maybe the Thunder are just too talented to make adjustments against. However, that's still
Uh-oh.
needs the three.
Oh, God.
You can't survive
Oh, God.
the three.
Sorry, I didn't catch a lot of that out there, Zach. I can only conclude that you agreed with me completely in all my suppositions, and that we are in Congress on all issues Spurs, even though we might not be. Transitioning, and I'm just setting this up because I know we disagree. We talked about this a little bit. I just want to hear. I just want you to begin. I want your opening salvo. Warriors uniforms, new Warriors uniforms, a shirt, jersey, a jersey, if you will, revolutionary, Oregon, Nike-ish, even though it's Adidas. The Warriors with a bold vision for the future. Zach, how do you feel about
Here's
it?
the thing. You're going to spin this as nobody likes change. And the thing is, I don't like ugly change. This is concerning because I'm really like, I don't like the way they look in the first place. I think they look like piss poor like soccer jerseys, and mainly I'm really concerned for Draymond Green here. Draymond Green he's a plump fellow. He's a guy that he's not going to win any wet T-shirt or maybe he will win a wet T-shirt contest. Maybe that's the problem. And I'm worried about a skin tight jersey on him.
I the wet T-shirt, that was a distracting digression. I don't even know what to do with that. Perhaps for the sake of Draymond's vanity, the jersey might not work, but he did tell me when I've asked him that he went through an intensive workout regimen, so it is quite possible that what we will see with that jersey is just bulging muscles in the shape of Tony Gwynn. So that is possible.
What does that mean, though? He went through an intense workout regime. Like, that's what he's supposed to do. He still looks the way he looks. Like, he might just be one of those Anthony Mason plump fellow guys. He's very plump.
Hey man, he moves well. He moves well. Plump though he might be, on defense, he's a monster. And so again, the jersey could just be one big reveal. We will see something of a six pack in the shape of a keg, because of the jersey. So that's something that we should all be excited for. And more to the point, getting away from Draymond Green, I just happen to believe. Okay, the shorts. That's what we're getting into. Those shorts are bad. I don't know why they're wearing the Indiana Pacers shorts from the early 2000s. That doesn't make sense to me. The jersey, I love the jersey. People are reflexively lashing out on it because you just want to make fun of anything new on Twitter. It's an easy joke. I disagree that they're ugly. They look like a cool mesh just caressing the shoulders perfectly. and apparently, it wicks away sweat, which is cool. I'm just going to become a shill for them in hopes that Adidas sends me a jersey, and also because now that the Warriors are at least competent, despite this 4-game losing stretch, I'm going the way of Bob Fitzgerald. I'm just going homer-tastic. The sun shines on the Warriors, whether they're wearing a jersey, or a wet T-shirt, and I like what I'm
Here's the
seeing.
thing, though, is that, you're not as contrarian as you're painted out to be. But you try to be a little contrarian when it comes to being a fashionista. You're the fashionista of this show. I feel very confident.
What?
And so I feel like you're trying to say, oh, this is in now. These jerseys are in, when they're not. They just came out last year with those incredible, incredible regular Warriors jerseys that had the city on them. They were just great. And then you follow up with this? Why so much change? Why? I don't get it. Why experiment with this? I know it's an Adidas thing, but the Warriors should have said, no, we've got our uniforms.
Well, obviously, I shouldn't be telling anybody what's fashionable. Anybody who's seen me in life can attest to that. But I do like new, and that might be something we're getting at, where it's not necessarily being contrarian, it's just liking new and liking boldness and ambition, which is something that has been in short supply in these parts when it comes to the Warriors. So even if I don't love the Indiana Pacer shorts attached to these jerseys that I do like, I appreciate the Lake Hub and the ownership group is trying to be something cool and be something different. I also just happen to like I like the look of the top jersey. Why not? Why not a soccer style? You spit soccer with such derision, Zach, and the question is, why are you doing that? This is the world's game. It's incredibly popular. Everybody loves wearing those Arsenal shirts and what have you. What's wrong
You
with
want to
it?
know why I'm not embracing the world's game? Because I'm an American. This is America, where basketball and football and baseball ruled the land. This is where eagles soar and flags wave in the wind, in the pure American wind. That's why. I don't care about the world's game. I want my game. I want America.
Oh, Eddie Maisonette, who I believe was at the event. The shorts are supposed to be representative of the Bay Bridge, from what I was told at the press conference. Now they're going a little too much with it. Here's what I do love about it: not to spend too much time on the jersey, which is another way of saying that we're spending way too much time on the jersey. But if you want a little Harrison Barnes comedy, the guy who was unveiling the jersey, the Adidas guy, said that Harrison showed up to their meeting on the topic in a full suit, which let him know that Harrison Barnes cares about style. So I just thought it was a nice little Harrison Barnes tidbit for those of you who didn't know that you were getting a jersey featured by the pinnacle of cool, Harrison Barnes.
He's the fashionista. He's the Ethan Sherwood Strauss of the Golden State Warriors.
Look, man. Well, okay. If we're thinking about wacky topics and contrarian topics, and maybe I'll ask Tom about this when he's on because he's written up Andre Drummond. How do you feel about the free throw, Zach? It's been just a rant for me, this free throw. I do want to excise from the game, and these two issues, the issue of not liking the free throw and loving Andre Drummond, they coalesce, they overlapped, and there's a Venn diagram between them when Drummond tragically hurt his vertebrae. And if you've been watching him play, because he's such a horrific free throw shooter, teams are just shoving him when he goes up to shoot, and when he tries to catch a lob, a lot of players are just literally shoving him out of the air. And while we don't know whether or not that is what caused the injury, it stands to reason that guys like Dwight Howard and Drummond, they're more of an injury risk because of their capability of scoring mixed with their bad free throw shooting. And are we okay with a guy getting hurt because he's a poor free throw shooter?
Much like my love for America and not to embrace the world's game as much as I embrace American games, I believe in checks and balances. And I believe that you can't get rid of the free throw because you need a penalty for fouls. And you can't just award baskets because that's not earning the basket. This is a blue collar sport. This is a lunch pail sport that we need to embrace even more. And I don't think getting rid of the free throw. I think there is some danger in poor free throw shooters maybe being hacked harder. I mean, we see that with Dwight Howard. He's getting his shoulder yanked. He's getting hit pretty hard to, one, injure the shoulder, and two, he can't hit the free throws anyway. But isn't that on player development more than player safety? Are they really at risk that much?
Well, I would counter with we have a lot of evidence that demonstrates that players, even if they want to, generally can't improve free throw shooting, or generally don't. Some do. Um, so I would just have a question about punishing somebody for a skill that they can or can't improve. That's a fraught topic, and I do want to transition from that because I'm very smooth with the segues as I outline them and announce them as they're happening to bringing on Tom Haberstroh, who has, I believe, come back from Sports Center. Is that true? Is that true? I just Tom, why are you slumming it here? Why are you here? What's going on?
You guys got dibs. You guys got dibs. I got the call from Sports Center. The mothership called and said that, can I get on at 3:15? I said, no, I'm on HoopSpeak Live. So I pushed them up and made sure I got on your show.
Wow, that's just terrible judgment. Terrible judgment from Tom Haberstroh there. What were you discussing on Sports Center? We're all going to watch it and check it out later, but I want a little preview.
We were discussing Mario Chalmers. No, of course we were discussing LeBron James. They are kind of into that guy because he's really good at basketball. It's a pretty hot topic now, the fact that he's basically decided not to miss shots. So it's pretty cool basketball to watch.
Tom, since he's not missing shots anymore and he's a good three-point shooter now, and he's still, I would say, at worst, he's an average defender. He's a pretty decent passer. He's a decent rebounder. Is there a hole in his game? Maybe he's turning the ball over too much. Where is the hole?
Well, he does like to chew on his fingernails, so that's a huge weakness. I think at this point, it's all we can point to. No, he's not good at free throws. I mean, he's not a great free throw shooter. So at this point, that's all that's on the scouting report on his weaknesses, and I did a bunch of stats the other day looking at LeBron's accomplishments so far this season, and it's really jarring to see that there's only been 2 players in the last 2 decades who have shot 56% on 18 field goal attempts or more. It's him and Shaquille O'Neal. But then you go with the fact that there's only 2 point guards in the league that have 7 assists and 42% shooting from downtown. And it's Jose Calderon and Steve Nash, and then there's LeBron James. So you have this weird cross-section between Steve Nash and Shaquille O'Neal. That's where we're at right now with LeBron James.
That's funny because it would seem as though he's almost an amalgam of the two of them, or a perfect intersection between the two of them. Has he been doing less of the leaning forward on those free throws like he does when he's shooting them better recently?
Yeah, it's really bizarre. He seems to change his free throw routine every other game. I thought it was actually the quick fix was leaning forward and taking that giant step forward on his free throw his shot, but he abandoned that pretty recently. He's actually shooting okay right now, but he is fading backwards, and it's so bizarre to watch a guy who is considered a perfectionist in his own mind on the game of basketball switch up something so routine as his free throw, what he does every time before he shoots a free throw and how he shoots his free throws. So for a guy who basically is so OCD about everything on the basketball court, he seems to switch up his routine every other game. It's kind of bizarre, but it's the only thing that we have to say that he's not perfect on the basketball court. It's free throws. As scary as it is to say, he's a great rebounder, passer, shooter, three-point shooter, finisher around the rim. So at this point, if he doesn't fix that free throw thing, that's the only thing that's left.
Tom, you cover a team primarily that knows how to throw the ball into the basket from a far distance. I watch a team nightly who is trying to historically murder the three-point line in a different way. What's that like?
Zach, you should come down here. It's really nice, wet. It's warm. It's about 80 degrees out right now. Players can hit three-point shots. Their superstars are healthy. I mean, knock on wood, but they don't do knuckle push-ups that might jeopardize their shooting career. But it's a really bizarre thing how one team I mean, LeBron James basically wooed Ray Allen to come down to Miami, and he took less money to do that. So it's not like just shooters just flock to Miami because for whatever reason, but they do want to play with LeBron James. And I would think that a lot of shooters would want to play with Ricky Rubio feeding them the ball, but things haven't panned out, and Chase Budinger is hurt. But maybe the Minnesota Timberwolves could like Mike Miller. I don't know. He basically can't play on this Heat team. There's too many shooters. So
Here's the thing. We tried that before, and he refused to shoot when he was here. So I don't know.
That's right. That's right. What is it about Minnesota? They're afraid of hitting shots from beyond 22 feet. What's the deal?
Just, once you've had Fred Hoiberg in this town, it's hard to. That's intimidating. That's a legacy you don't match.
Yeah.
That's an interesting theory.
I would say that, when you ask LeBron why is he shooting 42% from the three-point line, he basically gives the boilerplate answer of, I just really work on my game in the off season and I'm giving all these repetitions. But really what it is he's not just like dribbling up the ball up the court and taking heat checks every time down the court because he's realized that no one can guard him. And so he's only going to be taking three-pointers when he's feeling it. Or when he's wide open. And it's scary right now, but if you look at synergy, the number one spot-up shooter in the league, LeBron James. I know it's crazy to think about this, but he's at the level with like Kevin Durant, Steph Curry. He's Kyle Korver. He's right up there with them as a spot-up shooter. So I think part of it is that the fact that he is playing these shooting games after every practice with Ray Allen. They'll do like shooting competitions, and LeBron James comes out on top. I know this seems like I'm just like slurping LeBron James and slobbering all over him, but it's crazy that a guy is beating Ray Allen, the greatest three-point shooter of all time, in practice and in games. It's just kind of ridiculous at this point.
I like that we've reached the this era in sports media where describing greatness has to be modified with, look, I'm not slurping him, guys, because that's going to come back at you from angry fans. He's just that great. He's great. He's the best we've seen since Jordan.
Since I cover this guy, I get that all day long is that I'm a LeBron apologist, that I'm a homer, even though I'm a Celtics fan, apologist, a LeBrologist, And so it's funny because I do think that there is some resistance to appreciate LeBron because I think he burned a lot of people with the decision. That was like 2.5 years ago, more than 2.5 years ago. And what I don't want to happen is I look back at watching LeBron James 10 years, 20 years from now and say, like, I just didn't fully appreciate what this guy was doing on the court. And so part of the reason why I do write about him a lot is because I don't think we fully comprehend how dominant he is right now on the court. It's just kind of hard to capture it.
It's awesome. But speaking of capturing it, you're into this sport view revolution. Or is it sport view? I don't know. There's a V and a U and something's happening there.
I'm a sport view kind of guy.
I like going the French pronunciation and having it be sportif view. Sport view. You're into this. You had a very engaging debate on the Dan Le Batard show with Stu Gatz. You're always trying to convince him to accept the stats, and Greg Cody, the Miami Herald writer down there. And what I want to know is, I want to know, do you believe that the more we know, the more stats we incorporate, does it make the writing worse in the aggregate? Does it make it less enjoyable? You're one of the few people, in my opinion, who can actually meld it into a narrative and make it compelling. I just want to know if you think that that's at all any kind of barrier or anything to transcend the incorporation of numbers.
It's really hard to do, and I struggled with it for a very long time, and I think I turned off a lot of readers in the early work that I did. A lot of my work at Hardwood Paroxysm, for example, when I was just starting out writing, was basically all numbers, and it was me sitting in a lab on my laptop and just crunching numbers, and people really liked that. But mainstream, like when I'm writing for ESPN.com, it's in order to reach people, I do have to not dumb down my work, but make it more relatable and accessible, because a lot of the readers just don't want to read about PER. They don't know what that is, and it's foreign, and it takes thinking about what is this PER thing. And we get caught up in the fact that a lot of the people that I follow on Twitter, the people that I talk to on Twitter, they all are well versed in analytics, and they know all this stuff. But it is a battle that I do every day. I do a ton of research for my pieces, and I have to make it flow in the context of a story or a narrative or something that isn't just all stats. I don't think it's going to make writing worse. I think it's just going to make you more informed, and you do have to show. Yeah, Brandon, that's definitely the message I'm trying to. No, if I read an article in the New York Times about stock analytics, I'm not going to know everything that's in it. So it's not a matter of that they're dumb. It's just that they're not knowledgeable, or they're not, and that came out wrong too. I guess they're not junkies. They're not junkies on the topic. So it's like when I read any expert on anything other than sports, I'm just kind of like, wow, that's way over my head. Not because we're dumb, but because it's just a lot more intense. Zach Hart, yeah. So I've been trying to talk with readers to try to see if more stats, less stats, and it is interesting to see how NBA.com media stats site has kind of changed the way that we write about the game. No longer do you have to be like, I think this guy makes the team better. You can actually test that. And some people are turned off by that, but I actually like information. And there are a lot of guys out there who would just rather read about fluff and emotion and soap opera stuff. But me, I like to have my arguments grounded in some sort of evidence, and that's really what I go for.
Yeah, I mean, it's always weird to me that people would want to say, like, oh, I don't need that much information to form an opinion. Like, why wouldn't you want as much information as possible? With the Sport Boo, I'm with Ethan. I'm going Sport Boo. Sport Boo's got a really international feel to it. I'm going with that. With Sport Boo, you had a stat, I believe it was you the other day, that like LeBron averages like 300 dribbles a game or 330 dribbles a game.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you have, because I know the Timberwolves have the cameras in their arena. Does JJ Barea double that in about half the minutes? Because I assume that he is like 600, 700 dribbles a game.
Yeah, I don't have that on my fingertips here, but I would imagine he would. And it's weird. I mean, a lot of the stuff on SportView isn't advanced, and that's one thing I think people get hung up on is like, oh, this SportView stuff is like information overload. But these are things that if the box score was just tossed to the side, completely reinvented, this is the stuff that we would want in it, right? Touches, dribbles, how many passes go to assists, how many assists are going to free throws rather than just assists on made buckets, how many assists are secondary assists, or what people like to call hockey assists. These are things that we talk about when we talk about basketball, but they're not in the box score. And SportView is trying to get all that stuff that we already care about out there and quantified and actually at the fingertips of GMs and fans around the world who are curious. When Dwayne Wade plays with LeBron James, how many touches is he giving up per game? That's like a big fact that people want to know. They just were left in the dark for all these years. Now we actually have that information.
Well, what I want to know, I want you to look into your Haberstroh crystal ball and tell me which of these SportView stats are going to become part of the common vernacular, because it seems as though even stuff that makes a lot of sense, like effective field goal percentage and true shooting percentage, it's still not at the front of the player card. So
I don't think that stuff is going to be the most useful stuff. I think like open shots, so like a guy who is just unconscious, like LeBron James, if we had SportView data on his streak right now in all his games, there would be like when he has an open shot, when a guy's not within like 3 feet of him, he is 100% on shot. Like he is just, when he's open, he's unstoppable. Touches, dribbles. I don't know if dribbles are all that interesting to the average fan, but on base percentage in baseball became on TV. Like you had your batting average, on base percentage, and slugging, the triple slash stats. I'm not so sure we'll get to that point in the NBA where you have field goal percentage, effective field goal percentage, and true shooting percentage because it took like 60 years for baseball to get on board with on-base percentage. It took a long time to get on board with that. We just introduced effective field goal percentage and true shooting percentages 5-10 years ago, if that. And so it's going to take some time before that actually gets incorporated on broadcast and stuff.
There are only about 15 teams using SportVoo right now, right?
Yep, 15 teams, 8 in the West, 7 in the East, I believe.
I know that there's a reluctance with stats with some franchises, but is that just, as far as you know, the other 15 just aren't interested, or they don't want to spend the money? I can understand the Maloofs not having money for that, but maybe they use it anyway. Like, is it that hard to maintain?
It's a lot of money. I don't know the exact price, but it's a nice car every year probably, and teams are kind of scared because it's a new product. And here's another thing is, when you go up to Pat Riley and you introduce this SportView thing, and you tell him that only 15 teams have it and the rest of the league, we just don't have the data, that's a really hard sell. For them to get on board on a stat service that only captures half the league, that's a tough sell. So especially at the price that they're asking for, if you don't have the resources to explore that data and leverage that data, I can see why a lot of teams aren't going to be all that enthused about the product, because it's just so much stuff. It's expensive. It's not comprehensive in terms of how many teams are on board. So I think that's why I think a lot of teams are interested. They just don't really know how to leverage it just quite yet.
We're not doing Dagger Smash Noted for this show. We're going to close it with this question. I'm going to throw an old beat reporter style question at you, Tom. Talk about Birdman. Talk about what it's like to cover Birdman.
Well, I'll tell you this story. I walked up to him. I formally met him a few days ago, and normally these players, they stand outside the locker room and they do their media availabilities, and they're really cold, and they're really just like, all right, let's get this over with. But I walked up to Chris Anderson with my tape recorder in hand, and I'm going up to him, and he just holds out his hand to give me a handshake. And I'm like, this never, you guys have been in locker rooms before, this doesn't really happen. There's not like a friendly dynamic between reporters and players, but he just sticks out his hand and introduces himself, and I'm like, hi, Tom, and he goes, hi, I'm Bird. And I'm like completely taken aback by this, because he just introduced himself as Bird, not Chris. And he's just a really different guy. Visually, he's a different guy. He had a mohawk at the time. I think he still does. Tattoos, obviously. He has tattoos in his earlobes with stars where your earrings should be, just black stars. And when I asked him how he stays in shape, he said, well, I couldn't run the Rocky Mountains, so I just ate fried rice. And that made complete sense to me at the time, somehow. But then I walked away, and I was like, what? Did he just really say that? Did he just try to sell me that he ate fried rice to keep him in shape because he couldn't run mountains? And that's the type of guy you're dealing with Chris Anderson. He's a nice guy by all accounts. He was definitely friendly enough to introduce himself. Not many players do that. In fact, I can't remember any player who's ever done that. So he legitimately thinks that he's a bird. Like, he thinks he's a bird. He's not a character. This is a guy who introduces himself as a bird. I mean,
it's like
a bizarre thing.
Dodgeball, but interspecies.
I've been very fortunate. I've been very fortunate. I've been able to cover LeBron. I've been able to talk to Shane Battier about basketball, and then I get to cover Chris Anderson. So every day I tell myself I'm the luckiest guy out there, because I get to cover these guys on a daily basis. Just when I think it can't get any better, I get Birdman to just fall from the sky. Literally, Birdman falls from the sky.
Well, that is an awesome story to end it on. I definitely want to ask about Birdman if he continues this production whenever you come back. If you don't leave us in the dust with this big time success, Tom, can't wait to see you on SportsCenter. And thanks so much for tuning in, guys. We'll have Beckley back next time, and have a great day.
I taught my bird to whistle like a referee. I can make a free throw when I'm down on one knee. I've been a fan of basketball since I was 5. Now I am a fan trope. An angel with a cudgel breaking bubbles of soap. Like honeybees buzzing around a hive. Everybody buzzing about HoopSpeak Live.